Hello guys, my name is KP and today I'm gonna talk about a topic I've been thinking about many times. What if World of Warcraft had subclasses? I've been playing World of Warcraft on and off for about 15 years, but even before stepping into Azeroth, I've been playing a lot of other MMORPGs. And one of them, and the first game I ever started playing a lot, was a game called Ragnarok Online. The thing that made me stay with Ragnarok was all the class options. You had a normal class type like your warrior, rogue, mage, priest, and archer. But then you had subclasses. So when you reached a certain level, you could become an even stronger version of your class and specialize in the way you like to play. An example is the cleric, their version of a priest. Could either go the monk way, who was like a holy fighter that uses fists to deal physical damage, or priest that focus on healing and some range attacks. And this is what made me love the game, all the options. So that made me think, what if World of Warcraft had subclasses? And if they did, what would they be? So I made a list that I think would fit certain classes and races, and I will go through them one by one. I'm trying not to get too involved in each class, so the video doesn't get too long. And this is my first ever YouTube video, so please bear with me on this one, since I'm still in the learning process.
I have an axe to grind.
Let's start the video, and we'll begin with the warrior. So for warrior, I decided to go for berserker and guardian. The berserker would be your typical offensive warrior that either focus on dealing damage with two one-handed weapons or one big two-handed weapon. Like a combination of your Fury and Ohm's warrior that we got today. There's not really too much to talk about this one. It's just your classic offensive warrior class. And the Guardian would of course be your tank that provides protection and utility for the team. Just like your protection warrior is today. Warrior could also have a race-specific subclass, and for the Horde I decided to go with Blade Masters. The Burning Blade clan and their Blade Master is something we've been familiar with for a long time in World of Warcraft, so I think they could easily be a playable subclass. These warriors would sacrifice health to use abilities and have a lifesteal on their abilities. And of course the famous mirror image and an ability to make their weapon burn to deal extra fire damage and damage over time to your target. Another unique ability to them could be like a last stand kind of spell that makes them drop HP really fast but boost their crit chance, crit damage and attack speed. And for the Alliance, a race-specific subclass could be the Mountain King. Mountain King is also something we've been familiar since Warcraft. They are warriors that uses mainly two one-handed weapons, but also rely on their ability to call and control and utilize the power of lightning. They will be an offensive warrior with the ability to lightning charge their weapon to deal extra nature and lightning damage, use Stormbolt to throw lightning-infused weapons at their target, and summon a griffin to either aid them in battle or that they could use as a mount.
Put your faith in the light.
Let's move on and look at the Paladin. Light Order Paladin. That would be your standard typical healer Paladin. A light infused warrior that focus on the holy power that comes with the light. They could infuse their allies' weapons, they could heal, resurrect, much like your holy Paladin is today. And for the damage side, there would be Redemption Paladin. This would either be a tank or damage dealing Paladin, depending on how you use your talent points and what kind of weapon you decide to use. It would be a mix between Protection and Retribution Paladin. And for the race-specific subclass, that would be the Human Paladin as a Knight of the Argent Hand. They use light-infused weapons and passive smite that also smite the target when you deal basic damage to them. And they could also focus on the destructive side of the light and be a ranged caster who uses mainly light infused damage. Now let's look at the hunter. The beastmaster, like a beastmastery hunter we have today, that focus on summoning pets, boosting your pet damage, and make the pets able to tank. So, your typical beastmastery hunter that rely more on their pet to deal damage than themselves. And then of course the ranger, your typical ranged damage dealer, big damage with bows and guns. Focuses more on dealing damage themselves instead of their pet. But for the subclass, I decided to go with Night Elf Warden. They could either use melee or ranged weapon, depending on how they fight their enemies. They don't use a pet, instead they have the Cage Lock CC ability and more utility, like Shadow Step, to jump in and out of melee range. And for the Horde, I decided to go with, of course, Troll the Shadow Hunter. Uses poison, damage over times, shadow arrow, stealth, and it'd be interesting to have them deal magical damage and having spell power as intellect as their main stat. And let's look at the rogue. The rogue today is actually pretty good. The only thing I would add is a subclass called the acrobat. I always thought it was a big miss that Blizzard didn't utilize throwing weapons. This subclass would do just that, focusing on throwing weapons and being like a ranged assassin using bleeds, slows, surprise attack, stealth, but at range. And then you have your shadow spec. Your normal rogue assassin type class uses stealth, fast attacks, big crits, bleeds, poison. Just like your rogue is today. And for the shaman has always been one of my favorite classes. I love being a warrior that uses the nature and all the elements to empower their weapons. Spirit Caller would fit perfect. It would be a mix of restoration and elemental. As you go down the talents, you either decide to go restoration or elemental. It really depends on how you want to play. And the totem warrior would be your enhancement. A melee elemental warrior that uses different type of powers to buff their weapons and attack their enemies with deadly strikes. In my opinion, if they spec their talents right, you could also utilize them as tank. Using nature powers to turn their skin to stone, wind to get more dodge, lightning and lava shield to deal damage to the attackers and build up threat. I would actually try to make the shaman attack, but they didn't succeed with that one. So why not make it right? And their subclass, a witch doctor. Can you guess for which race? Of course, the troll. Witch doctor have existed for ages in Warcraft. It's really weird that we don't have them as a class. They focus on poisons, dots, summoning snakes, insects, cast plagues, buffs and debuffs. Big area control. Let's look at the priest. The priest, in my opinion, doesn't really have that many ways to go, since we already have our light infused warrior with the paladin. So, of course, the first pick would just be the healer, the light's path. Your standard healer uses heals on allies, buffs, absorb bubbles, and smite your enemies. And if we look at their DPS side, they could have something called the Madman. This is your old god influence subclass. Like the Shadow Priest we have nowadays, using old god's power to dot break the enemy's mind, control enemies, and a full DPS priest that has walked down the wrong path. So focus on more mental damage, CCs, damage over times, and insanity. And if we go to the mage, the obvious choice for one subclass would be the elementalist, just like the mage we have today, where you choose your talents according to which element you want to focus on, either frost, the arcane, or fire. And the second subclass I've been thinking about is Chronomaster. A lot of people have asked for this in World of Warcraft. A mage that uses more utility and time magic to either speed your allies, slow enemies, you can ignore damage, and just wreak havoc with dimensional rifts. And we already have time magic with the Bronze Dragonflight in World of Warcraft, so this would also fit perfectly. You could also throw in the Gnome Tinker here as a race-specific class, a Tinker who mixes destruction with bombs and magic to deal massive AoE damage. And when you look at the Warlock, I don't really have that much to add. I think Blizzard nailed it with this one. Of course, you could either be the summoner that focuses on summoning hordes of demons to run down your target, like your Demonology spec is today. Or the Fell Lord. This would be your distro Warlock, focusing more on getting power to themselves and relying on their magical attacks instead of using demons in battle. They can maybe sacrifice demons to boost their own stats. And now we look at the Druid, the last class. Druids would have the way of the beast, where you either go beer tank spec or feral for the cat to be like a rogue with focus and bleed out the target. And the bear would of course be your tank, like it is today. Also, Blizzard nailed it with this one. And for the second subclass, it could have been Moon or Nature Caller, depending on if you play Tauren or Night Elf. Their spells would be the same, but only with different visuals and different names, since Night Elf focuses more on the moon, while the Taurens focus more on the nature and the Earth Mother itself. You would either go healer or ranged magical DPS, depending on how you use your talent points. Now we have reached the end. These were just some of the ideas I came up with if World of Warcraft decided to go for subclasses. Please leave a comment if you have any better ideas for a subclass or something that I missed. And this is of course just a personal list of the subclasses I would like to see. Thanks all, please leave a like or subscribe, it really helps a lot. I hope to one day turn this into a blooming channel. So have a good one and I'll see you for the next one.